Hi everyone, welcome to your prop and alternative prop video here. Now you're probably here because you're not quite sure exactly which props to use, or you've done a couple classes and you're just like, I don't have those props at all, and that is okay. The props that we do use in restorative yoga do not necessarily need to be the exact same props. We can actually use so many other different things that we have around the house that will also be just as great and just as suitable for your practice. The idea is that it is all around your comfort. It is all around what is going to feel best for you so that you can relax, you can feel supported, and that you can just rest in those spots and in those poses and shapes that we're going to be doing. So to begin, we're going to start with the strap. Now the strap, this is something that you may have, you may not have, but if you don't have a strap, that is okay. We mainly use the strap in our practice. Cats can be included, or pets can be included as well. But we mainly use the strap for legs up the wall or constructive rest pose or even supported bridge. The idea that when we're in those poses and we use the strap is so that our legs can feel like they're being supported with the strap, so that when we are allowing our legs to soften and maybe even externally rotate, they're contained within that strap to do so. You can use a bathrobe tie in lieu of a strap. You can also use a scarf. Now, the one thing I will say about these particular items is that when we are using the strap, generally we have loops on a more traditional form there. So for us to use these alternatives, we will need to tie a knot or two. And I would just suggest for something that is easy for you to undo when it's time, just in case we do need to use the strap a second time. And also you don't want to have to be trying to wrestle around with a knot either during practice or even after. We want to make sure that you're staying rested and that you stay rested after the practice as well. The next prop that I'm going to talk about is blocks. So these are just some foam blocks that I got a while back. The one thing I will preface with blocks is that I had searched around the house. I was looking on the internet for some things that would be best supported in our restorative practice when it comes to blocks. Now, in a more active practice, you may be able to use books or encyclopedias or stacks of magazines or even small little stools, because the idea is that you want to bring the floor up to you. Whereas in restorative yoga, we're using the blocks to help support us here, so that yes, everything is coming up towards us so we can fall and sink and melt deeper into a shape, but it's also used for supporting us, for holding us in certain parts. So I would definitely say invest in some blocks as part of your practice, because everything else you can find at home. The next prop we're going to talk about is the blanket. Now, the wonderful thing about the blanket is that so long as you're not using a duvet or a thick comforter, I would say you can use almost any blanket you have around the house. It doesn't need to be a specific kind. So long as it's got a nice length and a nice width, and it's got the ability to fold really well. So ones that have like a really thin material, as you can see here, it's quite thin. It works just as well. And also something that might be able to, cover your body if you're feeling cold during one practice and you just want to cover yourself up all the way there. The blanket is also really a great tool for adding a little bit of extra weight onto the chest, the belly, the thighs. So if you don't have a sandbag as well, that's another option. I don't have a sandbag because I find that the blanket works just as well, especially when you just fold it up a little bit thicker, and it just adds a nice little gentle weight onto the chest, the belly, the thighs, wherever you need to be adding the weight for it there. But if you don't have any additional blankets that you can be using, well then let me tell you that you can use a towel. Any size towel, any thickness, it doesn't matter. You can just use a towel in lieu of a blanket and it's perfect. The next prop that we're going to talk about is my absolute favorite, because I find that this is the prop that really changes how a restorative practice can be versus a yin practice or a very gentle stretch. Okay. So that prop is the bolster. Unlike all of the other props that we've showed, so the strap, the blankets, the blocks, the bolster is an investment piece. So I can totally understand if you do not have one of these at home, but you are in luck because there are so many different options of things that you can use that you have around the house that you can use in lieu of a bolster. So the best alternative, for me at least, to the bolster is a pillow. My preference is to use a medium-sized pillow, so one that's not too big, but definitely not one that's too thin, as in lieu of a bolster. Now, the medium size is actually more or less the same height, a little bit of the same density, so it works perfectly there. However, if you do not have a medium-sized pillow, you can always use a much thinner pillow as well. And if you have a couple of those, you can stack those on top. Now, the reason why we want to be able to stack them or have a little bit of height within our makeshift bolster is because when we are using it to either, extend and open up through our back, or if we're in side lying and we want to extend the side of the body here, or if we're using it underneath our knees, it is super helpful to have that support. In restorative yoga, we are using these props to help support us so that we can relax. In, let's say, a hatha vinyasa power type of yoga, where it is much more about the power and the strength that you're using in your practice, you're going at 100%, maybe even more in terms of your energy level. Whereas in restorative yoga, we're dialing it back to 75% so that we're not actually having to hold ourselves up. So the more props, the more support that you have, in my opinion, the better. Now, in a lot of my sequences that I do use, you will be required to have 2 bolsters, and that's just to have maximum support. So in that case there, I do suggest to have a couple of pillows on hand for that there. So another option that you can have in lieu of a bolster is, if you only have a couple of pillows that you can use, is using your blanket as well. Now, this particular method is only really helpful when we're looking to put the bolster either behind our back, maybe resting underneath the shoulder blades, or if we're going into Sphinx pose, so supported Sphinx, where it's just going to support us here. So the 2 ways that you can use your towel in lieu of a bolster is to take your towel and fold it widthwise in half. Now, this is a good length if you are of average to height. If you are a lot taller, you may want to fold your blanket lengthwise in half just so that you have a little bit of the length, and then you can fold it over wherever you need to. So I'm going to demonstrate in the way that works best for me, because I am not a tall person, is you fold it over in half like that. And then you just roll this short side You just roll it up. It could be loose, it could be tight. It does not have to be perfect in any way. And then you get this nice, beautiful roll that you can use to support along your spine. You can use the support for underneath the shoulder blades to open on up in that way there, and some other ways as well. Another way is, let's say we are going into Sphinx pose, so supported Sphinx, and you don't have a bolster to support, this solar plexus area here, but you do want to be able to soften into the shape rather than having to keep yourself up and activate the low back. If that is the case, then you just take a couple of blankets, maybe even the towels, and fold them into this long shape here. And how you do that is you fold them in half widthwise, and then you fold it in half once again like this. You stack a couple of them on top of each other. I'll show you even with the blanket here. Fold up the blanket once more, just to give some extra little bit of height. Good. And then you've just got this really great setup in which you can then just allow yourself to fold onto without having to feel like you need to get a bolster in order to perform that particular shape, and you can soften into there. Our last prop. Now this one I did last because it is an optional prop. I say it's optional because it is a personal preference in which you want to use an eye pillow or not. In my case, I love using eye pillows. I love using anything that helps me to shield my eyes during the practice. And what it does is that it just gives the eyes some reprieve. It just allows them to rest and relax and to soften a little bit more because they do so much work throughout the day. Now, if you don't have an eye pillow, that is okay. You can use an eye mask. And if you don't have an eye mask, I'm sure you can go to a dollar store, you can go to go Winners or TJ Maxx or wherever you happen to be and find something that is relatively inexpensive for you as well. The other options that you can use are scarves. You can just put a scarf over your eyes. You can put a t-shirt over your eyes, a blanket just resting from here back. Whatever is going to allow you just to soften, maybe not have any external light coming into your practice. And a lot of people really enjoy using it specifically during Shavasana. So I do encourage you to utilize it as well if you feel like it's going to help you. Another thing, another little tip that I will offer for you as well is you may want to use some essential oils on your props, on your eye mask or your eye pillow. And then what it does is that it just helps to alleviate, or it just brings you into a different space when you use it. If you don't like essential oils, don't worry, you don't have to do it. It's not mandatory in any way. Another way you can also do it too is by putting on your hands and smelling it. Just another way as well, but totally not mandatory. Thank you so much, everyone. If you have any tips that you found worked for you, if you found that there was something else that worked better, please let me know. I would love to include it in another video where we're just trying to figure out what is going to be the best thing for everyone here, and any tips are more than welcome. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the practices. If you have any suggestions for that as well, I would be more than happy to receive. And until next time, journey well. Bye.